After my son-in-law's shocking betrayal, I survived a 200-foot plunge and transformed their lives. Bill Johnson stood among the oil-stained tools and half-finished engines of his family's auto shop, the weight of betrayal pressing down on him like a heavy fog. The walls felt as confining as a prison, each tool and piece of machinery a reminder of the legacy he had poured his heart into for decades. Jake, his daughter Emma's husband, had always seemed like a beacon of promise, a charming young man who seamlessly integrated into their lives. Now, the realization that Jake had siphoned funds needed for the shop had shattered that illusion. The shop wasn't just a place of work. It was a symbol of their family history, a testament to their hard-earned stability. Every clang of metal reverberated through his mind like a malicious echo, forcing him to confront the reality of his daughter's marriage. How could Emma have chosen someone so deceitful? Bill's pride twisted like a knife in his gut, filled with both anger and disappointment. He paced the shop floor, running his hands through his graying hair. Questions tumbled through his racing mind. Was Jake always this way, or had he hidden his true self beneath an easy smile? And what about Emma? How would he tell her without shattering her world? As the looming spring storms darkened the sky above Cedar Springs, the tension in the household became a palpable force, silent yet deafening. They had planned a family camping trip, but the suggested connectivity now felt like an impossible joke. Bill clutched the camping gear with the same urgency as though it were a ticking time bomb. His fear resonated, swelling like the darkening clouds. Would this trip deepen the rift between him and Emma? Or worse yet, would it allow Jake to play the good husband while silently reaping the rewards of a shattered trust? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each passing moment, Bill felt strangled by uncertainty. Determination coursed through him, battling against his sense of helplessness. In a moment of impulsive clarity, he reverberated the inner turmoil. His daughter's happiness versus his obligation to protect her from Jake's betrayal. But if he spoke out, would she hate him? The very thought made him nauseous. The day of the trip arrived, and they set off into the rugged wilderness. As they climbed a steep cliffside, Emma faltered, trembling under the strain of her spiraling emotions. Bill slipped back instinctively to steady her, every muscle tensed. The ground gave way, and he tumbled helplessly, tumbling down, spiraling into darkness. As his body crumpled against the unforgiving terrain below, a mosaic of pain and clarity washed over him. This was just the beginning. In the sterile confines of the hospital room, where hope and despair seemed to exist in a fragile balance, Bill was determined not only to survive but to discover a newfound strength in the depths of his vulnerability. But what awaited him once he escaped that sterile life? Would he find justice or deeper betrayal lurking in the shadows? Bill lay in the hospital bed, swathes of gauze wrapped around his body like a shroud. The sterile scent of antiseptic burned his nostrils, a reminder of his vulnerabilities and the steepness of his fall, not just down the cliff, but into a darkness he hadn't anticipated. Each breath was a new awakening, a painful but necessary reminder that survival demanded more than just physical healing. It required confronting the emotional rubble scattered throughout his life, especially in relation to Emma and Jake. The hospital room was alive with the buzz of machinery, yet within it, a silence echoed louder than the heart monitor's steady beeping. Bill's thoughts spiraled, as raw and jagged as the scars beginning to etch themselves into his skin. Jake had betrayed him, infiltrating both his family and his livelihood. The weight of that truth felt heavier now that he had faced mortality, and it nudged his resolve into action. He would not allow this chapter of his life to define him any longer. He started to plan, mapping out a list of things he needed to confront, people he needed to confront. First on that list was Emma. Could he even begin to communicate the complexity of his emotions? Would she understand the father who only wanted to protect his daughter? As days slipped by in the ward, Bill couldn't avoid the questions digging deeper. His body was healing, yes, but his spirit could either rise or remain burdened by resentment. With every visit, Emma's presence brought flickers of both joy and sorrow. They could laugh together about old jokes. Yet behind her eyes was a flicker of worry, concern for her father's health, and a husband whose shadow stretched impossibly long over their interactions. The thought of confrontation loomed large. The moment had to be right, but the right moment always felt like a vague illusion. On an afternoon soaked in the golden light of a setting sun, he saw Emma sitting at the window, her silhouette framed against the fading day. She looked so small, so vulnerable. It struck him. She was also a victim in this. Jake's betrayal wasn't just his crime. It had pierced her heart too. "I need you to listen to me, Emma," he managed to say one late afternoon as she leaned against the wall of the hospital room, a worried crease on her brow. The determination in his voice surprised even him. It was now or never. About Jake, tension coiled in the pit of her stomach as she met his gaze. She sensed the seriousness of his tone, the impending confrontation clawing at her composure. "Dad, not now. I don't want to talk about him right now," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. But he pressed on. "Emma, it's time we faced this together. I can't watch you be hurt. I can't sit by anymore." Bill's heart raced, urgency igniting his every word. He felt like he was standing on that cliff again, teetering at the brink, ready to leap into whatever awaited them on the other side of the truth. He needed her to understand the full weight of Jake's betrayal, not just for his sake but for hers. As her expression shifted, caught between disbelief and the dawning realization of his intention, a myriad of emotions played across her face. Each flicker portended a conversation that could either bind or shatter their family forever. The moment stretched, thick with unspoken fears and painful memories. There was no turning back now. Bill breathed deeply, every inhale a step closer to unveiling the shadows lurking between them. What would Emma's response be? Would she support him in confronting Jake, forcing herself to navigate the tidal wave of feelings crashing down upon them both? With neither of them knowing for certain how to respond to the reality unfolding before them, the room filled with pregnant silence, giving birth to the gravity of an impending confrontation that neither had expected, but both desperately needed. "What are you prepared to do, Dad?" Emma finally asked, her voice trembling as the barriers began to tremble. The fight ahead grew clearer, yet each step deeper down this path felt precariously uncertain. Would he face Jake with the ferocity of a protecting father, or the vulnerability of a wounded heart? The moment hung perilously, a cliff waiting for its next descent. The hospital walls felt like they were closing in on Bill, the weight of his choices pressing hard against his chest. He could see the hard lines of readiness and fear etched across Emma's face, a reflection of his own internal conflict. Confronting her would mean confronting himself first, and that scared him more than another potential fall. "Dad, she started to speak, her voice wavering. Bill could see the struggle behind her eyes, the uncertainty that came with the prospect of exposing feelings laid dormant for too long. He wanted to reach out and reassure her, but the truth hung over them like a storm cloud ready to burst. He watched her wrestle with the question he had thrown into the atmosphere. "What are you prepared to do?" Echoed like a mantra in his mind, taunting him. The confrontation he feared could either empower them both or sever the bond they had fought to maintain. "Emma, I need you to understand I'm not blaming you for what Jake did. I'm trying to shield you from the damage that has already been done." The words flowed from him, an unsteady dam bursting under pressure. She flinched at his reference to Jake's betrayal, but he pressed on. "Everything I've done has been for you. I wanted to be the father who kept you safe. I thought I could keep you insulated from all the darkness, but now I see." The swallow of his words felt thick, painful, but necessary. "What? That you weren't strong enough to face it?" Emma shot back, her voice rising. Fire flickered in her eyes, an impulse born of protective anger, ignited by the raw emotions churning within her. Bill took a breath, the earlier sting of fear transforming into a grounded determination. "No, that I was wrong to think my silence would protect you. It's time to talk about this, Emma. About Jake, about how he manipulated us, how we allowed it. We need to prepare ourselves for what's next." The tension in the room shifted, a current of shared understanding flowing through them, yet tempered by a fear of the unknown. Bill allowed himself to meet her gaze, the cracks in both their hearts visible and aching, yet somehow binding them together. Do you think confronting him will fix this, Dad? After everything he has done? She asked, vulnerability creeping back in. What gives us the right? Because we're still here, he replied, a sense of calm washing over him. Because I realize that if I stay silent, we remain victims. We studied the bruises inflicted on us, lived in shadows. Confronting his choice gives us back our power, gives us, you and me, a chance to emerge stronger. Emma shifted, the anger drained but uncertainty lingering. Did she see it, the plan taking shape behind her father's fevered pulse? Did she understand that confrontation wasn't merely about Jake? It was a reclamation for them both? I don't want to be a victim anymore either. Her voice softened, revealing a tremor of shared resolve. The foundation of their relationship lay bare before them, each terrified to tread on the uncharted territory. Both father and daughter stood at the edge of a precipice. This moment could be a leap into uncertainty, or a flight into liberation. Bill felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. Perhaps this was the pivotal moment they both needed, a reclamation of agency in their lives. Yet the path forward loomed full of unknowns, threads of connection stretching wider and thinner, each interaction a potential crossing into unintentional chaos. As they sat encased in a bubble of burgeoning understanding, neither could foresee how their plan would unfold. Emma whispered, so what happens when we confront him? What if it backfires? What if we end up losing more? A sigh escaped Bill's lips. The questions felt sharp, cutting through the fragile layers of hope they had worked to build. We take it one step at a time. Whatever happens, we face it together. As they lingered on that shared belief, the uncertainty morphed into a call to action. The moment of depth they had touched would not be the end, but rather the beginning of something tumultuous yet necessary. They both sensed it, an inescapable tension that dared them to leap. And then came the chilling confirmation: Jake had already made plans to visit. Confrontation would arrive faster than either of them anticipated, leaving them both on the precipice of truth. Would they be ready when the time came? As the hours crept by leading to Jake's anticipated arrival, Bill faced a profound internal reckoning. He paced in the hospital room, each step resonating with unsteady resolve. The sterile scent of antiseptic, once a comfort in medical routine, now felt oppressive, a reminder of the vulnerability that enveloped him. Emma sat hunched over, her fingers twisting in the fabric of her sweater. Bill caught glimpses of her face, a complex tapestry of apprehension and determination unfolding before him. He felt the rift between them begin to close, a shared understanding forming in the sacred ground of their trust. Yet the shadows of doubt nagged at his confidence. Could they genuinely confront the chaos Jake had left in their lives, or were they merely stoking the flames of heartbreak? He paused, scouring his mind for the strength he needed. A part of him longed for the protective walls he had built, an instinct to shield Emma from the fallout of Jake's actions. But that defense mechanism had only served to imprison them in a cycle of fear and victimhood. Would facing the truth empower them, or was it a reckless gamble? He began, his voice firm yet gentle. You promised you didn't want to be a victim anymore. You're not alone in this fight. What we're preparing for is our opportunity to take control back. We owe it to ourselves. Bill could see Emma shift at the weight of his words. The hardened resolve in her voice had matured to a subtle tremor. But can we really prevent him from hurting us again? I won't lie and say it won't hurt, he responded, his mind racing through the potential outcomes. But we know the pain of staying silent. Being afraid of the truth only gives him power over us. Suddenly, a sharp noise disrupted their bond, a knock at the door, followed by a slow creak. Bill steeled himself, recognizing that this was the moment of reckoning. The previous conversations that felt theoretical were now urgently real. Bill glanced at Emma, their eyes met. They were embarking on a shared journey, but the fragility of their newfound unity was palpable. Are you ready? He queried, half hopeful, half terrified. With a deep breath that seemed to gather all her courage, Emma nodded. Let us do it. As they faced the door, time seemed to dilate, a world of emotions swirling within each heartbeat. Bill tightened his grip on the hospital chair, feeling the solidness of wood beneath his fingers, a stark contrast to the turbulence within him. A decision loomed large before them. They would confront Jake not only as a father and daughter, but as individuals demanding their agency back. With a push, the door swung open and Jake stepped in, an unfamiliar mask of certainty crossing his features. This was the moment Bill had foreseen, yet still felt unprepared for a collision of truths heading his way. "Hey Bill," Jake said, his voice betraying nothing. Yet the very presence of him felt charged with tension, unresolved questions, and a deeper reckoning. The air thickened with unspoken words. A battle brewing beneath strained smiles and hollow pleasantries. Bill felt his resolve steel. This was their first encounter, a critical initiation into the confrontation they had long dreaded. Before Bill could summon the right words, Jake tilted his head slightly, as if gauging the atmosphere. "I know we have a lot to discuss." At that moment, with all the preparations laid bare behind them, Bill realized they were on the precipice of an inevitable truth. The confrontation wouldn't merely be a chain of accusations. It was a chance for reclamation, a complicated dance of words that could either wound or heal. A flicker of uncertainty brushed across Emma's face, prompting Bill to step into the role of protector, a guiding light for her wavering spirit. The stakes had never felt higher. "Then let us not waste any more time," he declared, the sound of his voice ringing with determination. The confrontation had begun, but with each heartbeat, he questioned whether they were ready to bear the weight of revelations to come. The moment of truth loomed, and within it lay a myriad of possibilities, some liberating, others that could break them apart forever. Would they rise from the ashes of betrayal, or succumb to the flames? Jake stepped further into the room, the air pulsing around them. Bill's pulse quickened, a primal response to the man who had caused so much chaos. This was no longer a rehearsal of words or dilemmas. Reality demanded action. "Why did you come back?" Bill challenged, trying to anchor his voice with authority. Each syllable felt like a lifeline thrown into the chaos that surrounded them. Jake paused, an eyebrow raised at the question. "You know why, Bill? We need to sort this out." "Sort it out?" Bill echoed, disbelief coating his words. "You waltz back in here as if nothing happened. Do you understand what you've put Emma through?" The rising tide of anger made him feel alive, a stark contrast to the numbing grip of uncertainty that had held him before. Bill observed Jake's defensiveness. The man seemed to shrink within himself, but quickly covered it with bravado. "This isn't about me. It's about what you both have done to me too," Jake replied, his tone defiant, yet trembling with insecurity. The sharp air crackled. Bill turned to Emma, who had instinctively leaned back, as if retreating from the confrontation. He understood that they were in this together, yet he could feel the tug-of-war inside her, the desire to support him coupled with a deep, unshakable fear. "Em," he said softly, trying to draw her back into the moment. "Your voice matters here. What do you want to say?" Emma straightened, a flicker of courage sparking behind her eyes. "You think you can just come back and act like everything's fine? You hurt me, Jake. I'm tired of pretending this is all okay." Bill watched as her confidence built with each word. It was as if the weight of her pain began transforming into an immovable force. He realized it was his role not only to support her, but to help her find her footing in this impossible situation. Jake's jaw tightened at her declaration, but Bill noted a brief flash of vulnerability in his eyes. "I never meant to hurt you," he said, though it rang hollow, an excuse rather than an apology. "Not meant to," Bill retorted, the anger surging forward again. "That's not enough. Words aren't enough when actions have caused so much damage." The psychological dance became palpable, with each statement layered with underlying tensions. Bill found himself evolving within the confrontation. He was no longer just a passive player shielding his family. He was a strategic thinker, an orchestrator of their empowerment. He remembered the lessons learned from years in leadership roles, the importance of confronting hard truths without succumbing to emotional upheaval. With every direct challenge he threw at Jake, Bill wrestled not only with Jake, but with the parts of himself that had been unwilling to confront vulnerability. "Why did you do it?" Bill pressed, each word delving deeper into the heart of the matter. "I was lost," Jake admitted, his voice dropping, but it felt like an inadequate defense against the tidal wave of emotions Bill and Emma carried. "Loss doesn't justify betrayal," Emma shot back, her fierceness surprising even Bill. As the confrontation unfolded, Bill became acutely aware that they were reshaping their narrative, not merely reacting but actively demanding clarity and accountability. They were reclaiming their story, transformations blooming from scars. Jake's mask began to crack. Within moments, his irritation turned to desperation. "What do you want from me?" he pleaded, revealing the fragility behind his hardened exterior. Bill felt the grip of control slowly slipping away. This was the unraveling they had prepared for. And yet, in the rawness of their encounter, they were teetering on the brink of healing or devastation. "We want the truth. Tell us why you threw everything away." As the silence hung, Bill realized that they were no longer just confronting Jake. They were testing their own strength and resilience. They stood ready for whatever awaited next, impatient for the truth that could either shatter or liberate them. A sudden thought jolted Bill. But what if Jake had more to reveal than just personal failings? What if the deeper betrayals were yet to surface? The questions loomed, pulse racing in anticipation of the answer that could change everything. Would this truth unite them or further fracture the already fragile bonds still intact? Bill stood in the thick tension of the room, his heart pounding with uncertainty and emotion. The silence following Jake's plea felt heavy, saturated with the unspoken truths that had built up over years. Each second of quiet intensified his desire to shake loose the hidden stories woven within Jake's turmoil. How much truth could one man hold? And what if, beneath the chaos, there lay answers that could shift their reality? "Why did you really leave?" Bill pressed, defiantly fighting the urge to break eye contact. It was a gamble. Opening the door to deeper reflection might unleash more than he was prepared to handle. But in confronting Jake, he confronted himself as well, his desire for closure and, more poignantly, his fear of losing Emma to the untenable weight of this moment. Jake's eyes flickered with something akin to panic. "You have to understand, things got out of hand. I was in a dark place, and I thought." His voice faltered, the bravado dissipating into vulnerability. "Thought what?" Bill demanded, urgency rising within him. "Thought you could just walk away and leave us to pick up the pieces? You need to own your decisions." Emma tightened her grip on Bill's arm, sensing the shift as they entered a territory laden with raw emotion. Bill could feel her pulsing energy, a mix of support and trepidation. He took a deep breath, recognizing the importance of fortifying their unit, their alliance against Jake's chaotic presence. "Jake," Emma interjected, her voice steadier than before. "You think this is about you justifying your choices? You've created a rippling effect in both our lives. We deserve to hear the truth." Bill marveled at her newfound strength, a reflection of his own awakening. Suddenly, the air was electric with vulnerability on all sides. They were no longer mere witnesses or victims of betrayal. They were architects of their narrative, demanding clarity and resolution. "I get it," Jake muttered in realization. "You both want closure, but I can't." Just with rising fervor, Bill leaned in closer. "You can't just what? Keep hiding behind your excuses? You hurt us both, and we won't remain shackled to your past mistakes." The words dripped with a fierce conviction that astonished him. The intensity of the moment mirrored the chaos inside Jake, who visibly shrank but then drew himself up, surrendering to the confrontation. "I was scared," he admitted, almost pleading. "You don't understand how alone I felt." Alone. The word echoed through Bill's mind, igniting memories of his own battles. Days when isolation clung to him like a heavy cloak. "We've all been scared, Jake. We've all faced moments of doubt and loneliness. But that's not an excuse to shatter bonds. It's what you do next that matters." Bill's own throat tightened, realizing his emotional honesty had begun intertwining with the confrontation. He was revealing more than just strength. He was laying down a path for Jake to walk on, a bridge toward accountability. Yet doubt lingered. Did he truly believe this would unearth the deep-seated truths they needed? "What do you want?" Jake echoed again, but with a different quality this time. "I want to rebuild," Bill declared, his voice firm. "But rebuilding means facing the truth, every ugly part of it. No more lies. No more running." Jake inhaled deeply, wrestling with the weight of the challenge before him. As the seconds dragged on, Bill felt the gravitational pull of uncharted possibilities. He heard the hesitant ticking of hope beyond regret, a flicker of redemption, that might breathe life into their fractured relationships. Yet, as Bill prepared for Jake's forthcoming truth, a whisper of dread crept into his consciousness. There was a chance this revelation wouldn't provide stability, but rather stakes they weren't ready to face. What if the betrayals were more multi-layered, extending beyond mere personal failures? In that moment, clarity dawned. They could illuminate the darkness or spiral deeper into chaos. The choice lay within Jake. With his heart racing, Bill sensed that the answer was residing on the brink of a deeper abyss. Would they emerge from this together? Or would the truth drive a final wedge between them? As the unresolved tension crackled in the lineage of their fractured lives, the moment of truth stood ready to fracture or heal them all. What lay ahead held the potential for transformation, but also the risk of obliteration, every heartbeat echoing the choice they were about to confront together. With the air thick with anticipation, Jake finally spoke, his voice trembling. I thought I could manage everything, that I could keep the darkness separate from you too. But I didn't just leave. I ran towards something I thought was a solution. It was never about you or Emma. It was about me trying to save whatever was left of myself. Bill's frustration surged. You thought running away would help. Did you ever consider how your actions affected us? We were a team, Jake. You tore us apart. Each word felt sharper. A knife meant to cut through the fog of self-pity that clouded Jake's realization. The weight of the moment hung between them, creating a chasm that threatened to swallow both Jake and Bill whole. I see that now, Jake whispered, but his eyes remained cast down, as if wishing he could physically shrink into the floor. Emma stepped forward, her voice woven with compassion and indignation. You want healing? You need to realize that we aren't just bystanders to your decisions. You made choices that left us shattered. How can we ever trust you again? Trust, Bill repeated, the word resounding deeper than they expected. It instantly triggered memories of the solidity in their lives before Jake's betrayal, memories tinged with nostalgia, yet burned by hurt. He felt the urgency to reclaim that stability, but how could they rebuild something that had been so violently dismantled? Taking a moment to gather his thoughts, Bill shifted his gaze to Jake. This confrontation was more than about answers. It was also an exploration of his limits, of what he was willing to forgive. Could he accept the imperfection that dwelled within themselves in Jake? Or would he remain locked in resentment? I want honesty, Bill declared firmly. It was a simple yet profound requirement, one they would need to navigate carefully. What really happened? No more sugarcoating. We need to cut through the defenses, and only then can we think about rebuilding. Each word was an invitation and a challenge, a blend of vulnerability and strength. Jake hesitated, his struggle visible, the internal battle playing out across his features. I wanted to escape. I thought life would be easier if I just disappeared for a while, give myself breathing room. The truth is, when I left, I was drowning in my demons and thought silence was the answer. Silence hung again, heavy and laden with remorse. Bill understood that Jake's admission was a pivotal moment not only for their friendship, but for his own healing journey. Could he actually confront his emotions, allow himself to feel the pain, and not lose everything in the process? We've all been in dark places, Bill said, lowering his voice. But the real measure of friendship is how we pull each other back up. We don't just vanish. Instead, we face it together, whatever it is. His resolve was growing stronger, grounded in the realization that vulnerability could serve as a nexus for growth. Jake's eyes finally met his, and there was something different in them now, a flickering of determination. Reality began materializing in the shared silence. Choices, consequences, and accountability. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, both men were facing the possibility of rebuilding. But as Bill took a deep breath, prepared for the next phase of confrontation, another question surfaced, pulling at the edges of his consciousness. What other shadows lingered? What truths remained unspoken, deeper than anything they had approached thus far? The unanswered questions echoed louder than before, proving they were still on shaky ground as they awaited Jake's deeper revelations. In a world where fragile emotional threads could snap at any moment, Bill felt the urgency rising again, propelling him toward the next conversation that would decide not only Jake's fate within their triangle, but also the very foundations of his own sense of self. What else lay hidden beneath the surface? And could they navigate the tumultuous waters that threatened to unmoor them all? The moment to confront the lurking shadows had arrived, and Bill steeled himself for whatever lay ahead. The tension in the room was palpable, a tight coil ready to snap. Bill could feel the weight of his own questions pressing down like a leaden force, urging him to dig deeper, to poke at the raw wounds still festering between them, wounds that could either heal or infect. "What else did you hide from us, Jake?" Bill's voice trembled at the edges as he searched Jake's pained expression. He sensed that there was more. The way Jake had spoken earlier, hesitant yet finally honest, indicated a layer of complexity still veiled by something unadmitted. Bill's instincts urged him to unearth it. Jake swallowed hard, the flicker of determination faltering momentarily as shadows flickered across his face. I was ashamed. Ashamed of being an imposter. Of pretending to be someone I wasn't, someone who had it all together. Jake's voice was barely above a whisper, but each syllable was imbued with a raw confession. A cascade of memories whirled in Bill's mind. Moments of laughter and shared success that now felt hollow in the light of betrayal. How had he been blind to the cracks forming beneath the surface? The betrayal cut deeper than he had imagined, twisting existing trust into something heavy, unyielding. The realizations clenched his heart, a sense of betrayal wrapped in concern for his friend. Bill leaned forward, his voice steadier now, each question a step into hidden territory. "What were you running from, Jake? Was it just the darkness inside you? Or was it us, your family?" The term felt foreign yet intimate, bridging a gap that suddenly seemed insurmountable. Breath caught in Jake's throat as if he had been plunged into icy waters. "It was the thought of failing you both," he admitted, pain knitting his brow. "I thought if I distanced myself, maybe I wouldn't drag you down with me. But running only made it worse. I made my own demons bigger by hiding." With each word, Bill could see the shadows receding from Jake's features, revealing the vulnerability that had eluded him. In this moment, the lines drawn between them began to blur. Jake had always been the one who projected strength. Now, he was crumbling, exposing his jagged edges. "Jake, I get that you struggled," Bill replied, his tone softening. "But the solution wasn't to vanish. It was to let us in. We could have helped you. You had to know that." A flicker of regret shot through Bill as he realized how easy it was to judge Jake's decisions while grappling with his own missteps. Jake's eyes bore the weight of remorse, yet the glint of determination returned. "I see that now, Bill. I was lost, but I want to find my way back, not just to you and Emma, but to myself. I don't want to let either of you down again." The promise rang between them with a newfound conviction, but Bill was still wary. Could trust truly be restored after all that had happened? What did it mean to strike a balance between moving forward and recognizing the past? With an exhalation filled with quiet determination, Jake raised his chin. "I'm ready for the hard truths, the uncomfortable conversations. Whatever shadows are lurking, I want to face them now, together, no more running." Bill nodded, the tentative thread of hope weaving through the tension. But as they locked eyes, another question loomed large in Bill's mind, the one concern that encompassed everything. Were they both truly ready to confront the shadows? The lingering doubts danced ominously. "Then let us begin. But remember," Bill warned, as the air thickened again, "the past won't fade easily. It will demand a reckoning." As Jake braced himself for what lay ahead, Bill felt a surge of urgency to explore further, to unravel deeper motivations prompting Jake's actions. In that moment, a new path opened, fraught with challenges yet shimmering with the possibility of redemption. What hidden truths would emerge as they peeled back the layers of pain? And could this confrontation lead them to a stronger bond or push them further apart? The air hung heavy with a mixture of trepidation and anticipation, as Bill and Jake stood on the precipice of a conversation that could redefine their lives. Every unspoken worry lingered like an invisible force, pushing against Bill's instinct to move forward. Could they truly excavate the convoluted depths of deceit without uncovering too much pain? Bill took a deep breath, seeking the right moment to re-engage with Jake. "All right, let us dig a little deeper then. What exactly were you afraid of?" His tone was incisive yet imbued with a genuine curiosity, as if he were attempting to dissect not only Jake's experiences, but his own feelings of betrayal. Jake shifted slightly, a familiar anxiety rippling through him. I think I was terrified of how it would all unravel. The more I hid, the bigger the lie grew. I thought it would somehow protect you both from my failures, but instead, I just isolated myself. It was the worst kind of prison. Bill's chest tightened at that revelation. The image of Jake encased in his own self-constructed exile clawed at him. It was shocking to realize how disconnected they had grown, oblivious to the suffering that lurked just beneath their shared laughter and camaraderie. Is it possible, Jake, that you underestimated us? Bill questioned. Is it that you thought we wouldn't stand by you in your darkest moments? We're family, and family fights through the darkness together. Jake's expression shifted. Defensiveness flickered before he relaxed, allowing sincerity to slice through the facade he had built. I thought I was being noble, Bill. I thought I was being strong by handling it alone. But I see now that strength isn't just in perseverance alone. It's in sharing burdens, too. Bill started to wonder about his own role in Jake's narrative. Could he have done more to stay connected? Had he turned a blind eye to Jake's subtle cries for help, mistaking them as his attempts at independence? The complexity of human relationships often operated in shadowy spaces, where intentions collided with realities. What about Emma? What do you think this has done to her? Bill probed, bringing Jake's fiancée into the conversation. You think she doesn't feel the weight of your distance? Jake's shoulders slumped. I hate to admit it, but I was running from her too. I thought it would save her from the anguish of seeing me struggle. I didn't want to be the reason she felt trapped in our relationship. A pang of empathy surged through Bill, replacing some of the bile of betrayal. But Jake, think about her perspective, he urged. Love often means facing hardships together. What you saw as protection, she may have interpreted as abandonment. The quiet crashed down around them, a throbbing absence of words filled only with the realization that this path required courage. Bill felt compelled to guide Jake, to awaken insights that could weave the fabric of their fractured trust back together. Then how do we rebuild this trust? Jake's question was surprisingly raw, tinged with desperation. How do I prove to you both that I've changed, that I'm ready to face whatever comes? I'm terrified of what lies ahead. By showing us, Bill replied firmly. You have to take action. Words are just the first steps. Commit to transparency and let go of the shame that has kept you shackled. We're rooting for you, but you need to root for yourself too. As they faced each other, Bill observed a flicker of determination igniting in Jake's eyes, a pulse of promise wrapped in a haze of uncertainty. The road ahead looked turbulent, but an unexpected beauty lay in the challenge. They were confronting a storm that threatened to engulf their relationship, yet they were refusing to back down. In that charged moment, an unspoken understanding settled between them. Vulnerability was not weakness but a powerful catalyst for change. They were beginning to unearth the resilience buried beneath the surface. Let us do it together, Jake finally breathed, a palpable sense of commitment coloring his voice. Yet as the resolve solidified, a nagging question seared through Bill's thoughts. Would Jake be able to face the fullness of his reflection? Or would slipping back into shadows tempt him again? He knew the answer might come crashing down, changing everything once more. Bill stood amidst the remnants of his fractured world, the hospital bright lights illuminating new depths of his resolve. He felt the sharp pang of betrayal evolve into a necessary confrontation, a fight that was no longer just for Emma's heart, but for Jake's redemption too. The shadows of betrayal had turned into a flicker of possibility, hope intertwined with struggle. Each passing moment in that sterile room was a reminder that transformation often arose from chaos. With renewed clarity, Bill turned to Jake, whose uncertainty hung palpably in the air. You've faced the truth today, but this isn't simply about words, it's about actions. You must show us that you're committed to change, he stated assertively. It was no longer about reclaiming the past, it was about building a foundation for their shared future. Jake shifted uncomfortably, the weight of Bill's expectations pressing down hard. I understand. I need to do more than just apologize. I need to prove that I can be trusted, he murmured, his eyes revealing a flicker of accountability. This was the first step, a small one, but one that suggested potential growth. Bill felt a rush of anticipation unfurl in his chest, interlacing with caution. Rebuilding trust won't happen overnight. It's a continuous process. You need to be ready to show your sincerity with actions that speak louder than any words you've previously offered. Transformation unfurled within him as Bill recognized that confronting Jake not only meant addressing betrayal, but also signaled a reclamation of his fatherly instincts. He could see it now. His role as both protector and guide crafted a connection stronger than betrayal had ever severed. The fire igniting within him no longer burned with resentment, but rather illuminated pathways toward healing. Days passed in the hospital as they navigated the choppy waters of their confrontation, facing Jake's lingering shadows and Emma's silent resilience. Bill became a source of stability, both to Emma and to Jake. When Jake hesitated, he reminded him, "Vulnerability is strong. Share your struggles with us. Don't retreat into silence again. We're stronger when we stand together." Each heart-to-heart they shared was layered with accountability and sincere intention. Bill proved that confronting shadows required more than just identifying them. It required the illumination of honesty that could break through the darkness. Without knowing it, they began to rebuild a slow but steady process where laughter broke the tension, and shared memories rekindled lost connections. As the days turned into weeks, the three of them became a triad of support. Jake revealed layers of himself he had kept hidden, and Emma's compassion began to thrive amidst the rawness of their conversations. During one particularly poignant encounter, as shadows lingered just beneath the surface, Jake turned to Emma. "I want to earn your trust back. I never meant to hurt you," he admitted, his voice choked with sincerity. Emma's gaze softened, the tenderness that had once been buried deep emerging cautiously into the open. "Trust takes time, Jake. But I think I can start to see the man I fell in love with," she replied, granting a glimpse of forgiveness that felt precious and transformative. Bill couldn't shake the notion that healing was entirely possible, that confronting betrayal had woven a thread of fortitude uniting them. It dawned on him that while betrayal had thrust them into darkness, it had also pulled them out through shared honesty and exposure to vulnerability. Within that recognition lay his fulfillment. The assurance that they were capable of overcoming even the most profound obstacles together. Finally, he received significant recognition. Months later, Jake managed to revive the business they all cherished, putting forth effort equal to that of his indiscretion. The shop became not only a thriving enterprise but a sanctuary for their family's legacy. Bill watched as Jake demonstrated newfound responsibility and reliability, two qualities he had once doubted existed within him. In the wake of the turmoil, Bill realized his journey was not merely about confronting Jake's betrayal. It had also morphed into his own evolution. He had liberated himself from fear and isolation, stepping into a leadership role that fortified his family's bond. With the auto shop flourishing, their collaborative spirit redefined success. They rebuilt through betrayal and emerged more robust than ever. The air lightened with renewed confidence, and Bill knew he had not only salvaged a broken family, but had proved that with determination and vulnerability, they had conquered the darkness. As the sun slowly set, bathing the shop in a golden hue, Bill stood at the entrance with Emma and Jake, a sense of deep fulfillment coursing through him. They had faced the trials, initiated profound conversations, and emerged on the other side, grounded in resilience. Transformation was not just their path but a testament to the courage they manifested in face of adversity. And in that moment, Bill truly understood. They were no longer just survivors, they had effectively conquered. Now is your moment. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending and join the conversation. Your engagement matters, and only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of backing the channel through these actions.